Hi, this is Kathy Gilbert. We're back and we're going to talk about the job code just for a minute to help you understand the structure of the code, which is important because there's several factors that a job code will tell you about the individuals on your team. I'm going to use an example of a job code that starts with an N. All of the job codes will have 6 digits to them. Going to walk through what those 6 digits actually mean. So first digit you're going to find will tell us what the job family is for the individual. And in the example I'm going to use, it's going to be the job family for the newsroom. So within the newsroom, those would be skills such as reporters, editors, photographers, etc. would be in that job family. So the first digit is an N for newsroom. The second and third digit indicate to us what the sub-job family is. And that, in the case that I'm talking about here, would be RP because the individual is a reporter. So at this point, we know that they're in the newsroom job family and that the individual is a reporter. This is information that's going to be critical to us and important as we move forward because it will help us with staffing planning, et cetera, to know how many individuals we have in a particular job family and then within that particular sub-job family. So then we move on to the fourth digit, and the fourth digit is key. It helps us understand what the FLSA or Fair Labor Standards Act classification is for an individual that's in that particular job. So are they an exempt employee or are they a non-exempt employee? And so as you look at the codes for the employees in your organization, you'll see that fourth digit is primarily going to be either an E to indicate that the individual is exempt, or an N, which indicates that they're a non-exempt employee. You may also see that you have employees in codes that in that fourth digit have either an X there or a Z. And we've added those codes as we move forward to indicate employees who may be classified differently than what the norm would be. So for example, an individual who has an X there for that fourth digit would be an exempt employee that's in a code that would normally be non-exempt, a code or a position that would normally be seen as a non-exempt position. For example, if you had an administrative assistant, that position would in most cases be a non-exempt position. If you have an employee who is exempt in that, when you see their code, that fourth digit would be an X for them, which indicates to us that situation where you have an exempt employee in a position that would in most cases be considered to be non-exempt. You could also have a situation where you have employees who in that fourth digit have a Z, which indicates to us that it's a non-exempt employee in a position that would normally be seen as exempt. For example, if you had a software developer who had a Z there in that fourth digit, that would indicate that that's an individual is in a position that would in most situations be considered to be exempt, yet they are classified under FLSA as a non-exempt in our systems. So you're going to see those 4 different codes potentially, or 4 different digits in that fourth place in job codes. And again, that indicates to us the FLSA classification for that individual. And then the fifth and sixth digit are just numerics that, again, as we develop these codes, we started at 01 and can go through to 090, we can go through to 99 in each one of these different job families and sub-job families. So again, the job code is critical to us for many different reasons, and in the future is going to be extremely helpful to help us do staffing planning and understanding, the makeup of the staffing that we have in the organization. And we'll be able to tell by looking at the job families that they're in, the sub-job families that they're in, and the classification that an individual is. So the current population, you could see any of these 4 codes in that fourth digit as we go forward. Once we move over to Vantage, we will just be using, everyone will be classified on a go-forward basis. New employees or employees move into new positions, we'll just be using those codes that have E's or N's, and it will just be individuals who were coming from one of the three systems that we use today that may have that X or Z code. Over time will evolve to just using job codes that have either an E indicator or an N indicator in that job code, fourth position in the job codes for employees. And I'm going to turn it back over to Suzanne, and she can move through the rest of the forms for you.
Thank you, Kathy. That was very helpful. So we're going to continue with part 2 of the training for the new hire form. And so we're looking at job dates currently, okay? And so many of the elements on the job date section are really only relevant if, for example, there is different dates from the hire date, okay? So in particular, service date or seniority date, you know, only if that's, you only need to complete that if it's different than the hire date, okay? And then acquisition date, that would be sort of in the rare circumstance that you, that we were actually completing PCNs for an acquisition. Normally we work with the management team and we do an import. So we would partner with you and walk you through that particular process, okay? So the next piece, of course, is extremely important, and that is related to compensation. And so if the employee is exempt, okay, we would like their compensation noted as annual, okay? So basically what their salary is. If the employee is hourly or non-exempt, sorry, we would like that in the hourly rate, okay? The next piece is related to compensation frequency, okay? So again, if the employee is exempt, it's going to be annual, and if they're non-exempt, it's going to be hourly, okay? And then if we click over, we'll see pay type, and again, pay type is either hourly or salary. And so basically, what these data elements are really trying to get at is ensuring that we have folks properly classified as exempt or non-exempt, and then driving from that their pay being hourly or salaried, okay? Because we want to make sure that that's accurate, and it really does affect the time system, okay? The next piece, payroll, is critically important. As we talked about earlier, related to location, no longer drives the general ledger, and so that is through the payroll department number, the cost center, and the cost number. And so your local finance folks will have this information, and you can partner with them on that. The HR team in many circumstances has reached out proactively to finance to make sure that for, you know, their particular region, that they are obtaining this information now, so that when we go live with the system, we have this information available to us. And so the payroll department numbers now are basically the old payroll department numbers, the last 3 digits of the old one, with 999 attached to the front, okay? And then cost center and cost number, as noted, you can get that information from your local finance team. Again, the cost number really is the loss and company number, okay? And that, again, is information that you can ask for, okay? Payroll standard hours, if I jump back up for a minute, that only needs to be entered for folks who are salaried, okay, or annual. And so basically what you're going to do is you're going to enter their payroll standard hours on a bi-weekly basis. If they're hourly, you're going to enter, I'm getting a pop-up here. You're going to enter nothing if they're hourly, okay? So again, salary, it's what they work bi-weekly. Hourly, you're not going to enter anything, okay? If we move down and we see job dates continued, we have our benefits eligibility date, And so we have benefits eligibility. Again, your HR folks can help you with this information, but basically it's the first of the month following 30 days of employment, okay? And so we want to make sure that we have that information correct. And of course, the HR team can assist you with that. We're also gathering some new information on this form. Again, as we've talked about, as we move to the Vantage system, some of the codes have changed. Some of the mappings have changed because it's just sort of, the way that the system works, and it's going to help us, get better data. But we're also now capturing data on employees and what region they sit in, okay? And if you're not sure what region you sit in, that's okay. Again, you can check with your local HR rep and they will be able to tell you, okay? And we have our regions, of course, split out into Bridge Tower, Corporate, Center for News and Design, Southeast, Northeast, Central, West, Upcurve, Thrive Hive. So we have a number of different sort of regions and entities across Gatehouse, and it's very exciting that we're going to be able to gather that information in the system and report on it, okay? The other thing that we're now going to be gathering data on is related to relocation. It's not often, it's not necessarily frequent, but there are some rare circumstances where we have folks who are receiving a relocation allowance, and so we want to note that in this free-flowing text so that we can build it into the system, because sometimes, if they terminate before they meet certain, length of service requirements, we can recoup those monies, okay? And so we need that data so that we're able to capture that, okay? The next section, of course, is allowance. Sometimes folks, might get a cell phone allowance. We want to note that here. And then you also see a general deductions section, okay? So most of our deductions are coming through what we call interfaces. So they're coming through, for example, 401k is going to come through T. Rowe Price. And of course, Benefit Focus is where we do our benefits enrollment. And so we don't have to physically manually enter anything for a medical or dental deduction. It gets fed over. And the benefits team does a great job to make sure that that's clean and seamless, okay? But that information is also getting fed over. The next thing that we're going to be gathering related to new hires is company property, okay? And so we're going to do, a good job here of gathering and the data on what are we actually giving this employee. We're giving them a laptop, we're giving them a cell phone, because again, sometimes when folks go on leave or if they're terminated, we might want to look at what equipment they have, and certainly in the case that they're terminated, that's Gatehouse company property, and we want to make sure that we get that back, okay? So it's very important that we have that documented, okay? We're actually going to talk about the time section in part 4 of the employee training, okay? And so we will save that piece. What I can tell you at the moment related to time is that this will be, a relatively steep learning curve, but it's going to allow us the ability to, again, ensure our compliance from a Department of Labor perspective. It's going to get rid of a lot of manual process, save a lot of folks a lot of time. It's also going to make sure that we pay folks as accurately as possible, which is, a great thing for us to do from a variety of different perspectives. And so, it's very exciting. The organization has asked us, as a project team to, implement a time system. And so this is your piece, and we're here to support you in that, okay? We'll be going through that section, like I said, in part 4 of the training. There are some different data elements that we'll cover. The final piece that we're going to cover here on the new hire form, and this is actually relevant for all the forms, and that is the authorization signatures, okay? And so it's very important that when we are making any employee level change, we're hiring someone, we're transferring somebody, we're making a change to somebody's job title, that we have the appropriate authorization so that when you forward that along to the HR processing administrator, that they can enter that, okay? That they've got the ability to do that, because of course we are subject to Sarbanes-Oxley regulations, and we want to ensure for audit purposes that we are entering authorized change into our official employee system of record. And so basically we need the regional HR directors to sign off this form, or for Gatehouse New England, we'd like the VP of local media group, or of, Wicked Local. And we have additionally a management signature, okay? Also, it's very important that we're keeping the local HR representative in the loop as to what is happening with employee level changes, so that if their regional director, asks them a question, that they're aware and that, everybody is communicated with, okay? There may be different practices across different organizations, and we want to ensure that we are respecting any of those decisions based on the operational leaders' directions. Please, note that if there is a particular process within your region, that you are following that in terms of authorization signatures. Otherwise, we 100% always need the regional HR director signature. We need a management signature, and if possible, we need a director, VP, publisher level as well. That's always very helpful to have. Okay, that completes part 2 of our training. We're going to move on to part 3. We're going to move into the employee change form, okay? And so we are just going to switch over. So again, if you can give us just 30 seconds here, I'm going to just mute the line, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get started into our employee change notification form. That would be fantastic. And so thank you everybody for we're halfway through pretty much at this point.